Well, here's a video you've probably been waiting for a long time. It's my review on Don Bluth's classic The Secret of NIMH, the movie that most people consider as their favorite movie directed by Don Bluth. Even the man himself calls it his personal favorite work. However, personally, An American Tail is my favorite movie directed by Don Bluth, but The Secret of NIMH comes in a very close second. Now let's talk about this movie, shall we? Let's start with the animation because I think this is one of the major highlights of this film. For Don Bluth's first movie that was under full control of him, made on a budget of just $7 million, the animation here is actually very well done. Fun fact, during production of Disney's The Fox and the Hound, a group of animators, including Don Bluth of course, completely bailed out of Disney to make their own studio. You know what they say, one man's birthday gift to himself is another man's problem to deal with. But anyways, the way the animation looks, there could be a high chance that anyone could mistake this as a film made by Disney. The most positive thing I can say about this movie is that you can visually tell the effort put into the artistry and the craftsmanship. The designs have a more realistic tone on the humans, and the animal characters stay true to their realistic counterparts but also have some animated features, along with variations in their character animation to truly present their personalities. There are those like Jeremy and Mrs. Brisby's kids that have a more playful tone, while others like the Great Owl would take everything slowly in order to be more threatening. Also, as it is a more fantasy themed like project, the film also has a heavy use on effects, whether it be through light, smoke or other magical properties.
We cannot stay here much longer. Jonathan was a dear friend. Your wife has come at last. Perhaps now I can repay you for your kindness to me.
Funny enough, since this movie centers partially on evolution, its use of effects are actually very important. And some scenes also have a bit of blood here and there to present the movie with a slightly mature and dark theme as well. If there is a bit of criticism I have, however, it would be in the characters' looks, more specifically what they wear. Yeah, I know this is a 2D animated film and they have to look really simplistic, but it still feels a little too plain to me. However, that would not go to all the characters. In fact, the more supernatural ones, like the Great Owl and Nicodemus, thankfully have their own distinctive looks. And as for the backgrounds, again, they look very well made, it's just what they represent feels a little too plain, like a field, or a forest, or a cave. But even at that, some of them still stand out compared to others just by the artistry in the environment. I wouldn't say it is Don Bluth's best animation I've seen, but for what it is, I was still rather impressed. As for the story itself, it may be pretty basic, yet it's still very straightforward in my opinion. During the beginning, it only consists of a montage by Nicodemus that one of his friends, Jonathan, has died.
Jonathan, wherever you are, your thoughts must comfort her tonight.
But once we get to meet Mrs. Brisby herself and her situations she has to face, that's when the movie takes off with a clear mission. As the film goes on, we follow her facing unknown terror one after the other in order to save her kids. It may get rather dull and repetitive for some people, but thanks to the execution of characters like Mrs. Brisby and the action scenes, it truly presents that there is actual risk and danger in front of her when she has to protect her home or save her kids. That alone shows that this movie has a slightly mature theme that makes it a little scarring for children. In fact, it even has a really dark and mystical opening, but that's partially more due to the soundtrack. In fact, I will say that the soundtrack is also very well done and fits the movie very well with its dark tone. I mean, just listen to it. Another great thing about this movie is that it has a really nice balance of scenes that are really action-packed and raise your attention, and others that are more slow and quiet in order to sink in the moment.
Love, it seems, made flying dreams, so hearts could soar.
I admit there are moments that may seem rather pointless and confusing, but they don't affect the story too much, and what this movie did for Mrs. Brisby getting to her goal is done perfectly and really makes it shine. And then we have the characters themselves, and I will say right now, this will not be an easy task, mainly because not all the characters are great. Not downright terrible, but not really as memorable as the rest. Starting off with the characters that feel rather weak, there's Jeremy, who I get is trying to be the comic relief, but he only gets Mrs. Brisby and himself into trouble more than actually helping her. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, but he saved Mrs. Brisby from that insane cat dragon. Yeah, after he managed to lure that cat in the first place. Oh, but he helped to get her to the Great Owl. Yeah, but it would have made a difference if Mrs. Brisby used a different kind of transportation to get there. I wouldn't go as far in saying Jeremy is a terrible character, but I think the movie would be better off without him.
When we get to the Great Owl, he'll know just what to do about everything.
However, Jeremy is nothing compared to my least favorite character in this movie, Martin. One of Mrs. Brisby's kids who's a little brat that often misbehaves and thinks that he is not afraid of anything.
I'm not afraid of the dark.
Martin.
I'm not afraid of the farmer.
I can't hear.
I'm not even scared of the dragon.
Sure, he still has some feelings for Timmy when he's sick and his role is rather small, but I can't help myself not liking him when he's acting like a jerk.
Will you hush up?
Why, you hush up.
Martin. Precocious monster.
Bossy bullfrog.
Spoiled brat.
Loudmouth.
Oh!
And then there's the villain Jenner, and honestly, I get what the movie's trying to do with him. They make him a really sneaky sort of guy, have him whisper his plans to others, and make him an actual threat to the main characters in the final act. But here's the thing. In the movie there was a scene where he tries to make a point explaining why they shouldn't leave the farm because they already have what they need there, and after that scene, it's all just thrown out of the window and Jenner just becomes an asshole because the movie needed a villain to fight.
I've learned this much. Take what you can, when you can.
Yeah, I really don't like that line. He does have the potential of being an interesting character. The only problem is the movie doesn't really do anything with it. As for the other characters, they thankfully do have a purpose in the film and are likable in their own way. Like Justin being the captain of the guards who's also kind and gentle to others, Nicodemus is the leader of the rats who knows the history of NIMH and is like the old wise man, and the Great Owl may seem threatening at first glance but still doesn't do real harm to Mrs. Brisby. Plus, the voice performances that the actors gave them are very spot on.
It is an honor and a privilege, my lady.
My child, we can no longer live as rats. We know too much.
You must move to a place where it'll be safe from the plow.
But Mrs. Brisby herself is easily unforgettable. It's one thing to protect your kids when you are a superhero, but what if you're a tiny field mouse and the only skills you got are your own willpowers? With her kind-hearted personality and a solid performance by Elizabeth Hartman truly present Mrs. Brisby as a great mother that would risk anything in order to get what she wants.
The shrew means well. She only wants to help. Please, sir. I'll do anything to save Timmy. Anything. Oh, thank you. I will treasure it, always.
In the end, will I say that The Secret of NIMH is Don Bluth's best movie? Honestly, no. But it is still a really good movie that definitely deserves more attention. The story is very straightforward and engaging, the characters have some unforgettable charm, the animation is beautifully grand, the score is powerfully amazing, and it definitely presents a movie with a more dark and threatening tone. Let me know in the comments what I should review next. If this video hits 50 likes, another video goes up. And until then, see you later. Oh. Woof.